Yizok to Hilga Gemara. Hoya echad mehen nesachik b'kuvia. So the Mishnah tells us that if one of them was a mesachik b'kuvia, and because of that couldn't swear, the Shvua gets transferred to the other party. Dr. Rashi, mesachik b'kuvia, he's a gazlan derabanan who damrinin asmachta loikanya. Since we say asmachta loikanya, someone who makes money gambling is considered like he's stealing. Midaraisa, he's not a god. So Zok to Gemara, Hasul Amali. Why do I need the Mishnah to list off? The Mishnah already said Gasan. Why do I need the Mishnah to say Mesachik B'Kufya? So Gemara Tana Psul Deraisa, Vekatani Psul Derabanan. The Mishnah is telling us Saya Psul Deraisa cannot swear, and so too Psul Derabanan. And therefore the Shvua gets transferred. Hoyishneim Chashudim. What if both parties were chashud? Amalei Rav or Rav Nachman. Hey chitnan. What exactly does it mean when it says Rabbi Yosy says yachloiku or Rabbi Meir Omer yachloiku? In other words, our Mishnah quotes one of the Tanaim as saying yachloiku, another Tana of saying yachser lumkoima. So the question is, who says what? Amalei lo yodana. I don't know who says what. Then he asked him, Hilchos amai, who is the halacha like? Again, Amalei lo yodana. Rav Nachman answered, I don't know. Itmar Amar Rabbi Yosef bar Minyumi Amar Rav Nachman. Rabbi Yosy Omer Yachlik. It's the Tana Rabbi Yosy that said Yachliku. The Chein Tani Rabbi Zvid bar Oishio. Rabbi Yosy Omer Yachliku. Which Rabbi Yosy says Yachliku. If neither party can swear, they go 50-50. Ikadamri, although there's another version, Tani Rabbi Zvid Amar Boishia, Rabbi Yosy Amar Yachliku, Amar B'Yosef Rabbi Yumai, Amar Rabbi Nachman Uvda Yachliku. Rabbi Nachman Aloch Lamaisa ended up passing the Yachliku because eventually, although originally he didn't know who the Loch was like, and originally he didn't know who says what, eventually he got clarity, and once he found out that it was Rabbi Yosy who said Yachloiku, he passed on the Rabbi Yosy that says Yachloiku. So again, a loiva has to swear, he cannot swear. The malva cannot swear. So now neither side can swear Yachloiku. The loiva will have to pay 50% of what he was made on, of what he was denying. So on the Tzatz, Rabbi Yosy said Yachloiku, Rabbi Meir said Chazra Shvua L'Mkaima. What does it mean? Lahechan Chazra. What does it mean? It goes back to its place. So Gemara Amar Ami, Rabbi Senisha B'Bavel Amru. The Rabbanim B'Bavel explained Rabbi Meir that said Chazra Shvua L'Mkaima. They say Chazra Shvua L'Sinai. In other words, it goes back to Sinai, meaning nobody makes the Shvua, as Rashi says, L'Shvus Sinai. Sheshbiach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael Aloi Sigzal. We rely on that. Who Yifra Min HaKofer Mammon HaChaderei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will end up evening out the score for the person who wrongfully stole money from his friend. Avol Bezdin Ein Yiskaken Loi L'Shvu V'Loi L'Peroi. Since neither side can make a Shvua, Bezdin is not Niskak, and the person who denied, the loiva who denied that he owed money, walks away scot-free. But of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's only in this world, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu will see to it that everything goes where it needs to go. That's what Rabbi Senisha B'Bavel said. But Rabbi Senisha B'Eretz Yisrael said, Chazra Shvua L'Mechuyev La, Zokt Rashi, Al Zeh Shahid B'Mitzvahs. The original Shvua was Neschayev, the loiva. He was Moed B'Mitzvahs. The Chivan She'ena Yachal Yishava, but since he cannot swear, because he cannot be trusted, he's choshed to swear falsely, he will have to pay. So the machlokes is in Reb Meir who said Chazar Shulam Koino. Does that mean the loiva walks free, or does that mean the loiva has to pay? Amar Papa, Rabbi Sinisha B'Bavel. Who are those people? It's Rav and Shmuel. So Rav and Shmuel, they're Rabbi Sinisha B'Bavel, who said Chazar Shmuel Sinai, and therefore the loiva walks scot free. Rabbi Sinisha B'Eretz Yisrael are Rab Abba, and Rab Abba holds that because you will force the loiva to pay. Rabbi Senisha B'Bavel is Rav and Shmuel. How do we know that? How do we know Rav and Shmuel hold that the loiva walks scot-free? the Tanan we learned. So now we're going to prove when a Shvua cannot be made. When a Shvua cannot be made, what we do is we say that when the Shvua cannot be made, we say that that the loiv is potter. How do you see that? Because the Brisha says from Yosoimim you only collect with a Shvua. Va'avinaba, the Gemara asked on this Mishnah, Miman, when it says you should not collect only with a Shvua, when it says Yosoimim shall not collect only with a Shvua. If Yosoimim want to collect money that's owed to them, they need to swear. So the question is, who are these Yosoimim collecting from? Iman. Ilema miloiva. If the Yosoimim are the Yosoimim of a malva, and now they're going to collect from the loiva, and that's what the Mishnah means, they must swear that they didn't receive anything, or they're not aware that their father got paid, that doesn't make sense to say. Because Avu and Shakal Shvua. The father who came to Mon could have collected without a Shvua. So they should have at least that same amount. The Ine B'Shvua, normally you protect the Yisraelim. If anything, you upgrade their rights. But here are you suggesting that you'll downgrade their rights? Their father could have collected without a Shvua, and you're going to make them collect with a Shvua? This is what the Mishnah must mean. Normally, if somebody wants to collect from Yosoimim, he has to swear that he has not yet been paid by the father. However, you might think that if Tzai the Malva died and Tzai the Loiva died, you might think that the Yosoimim of the Malva don't have to swear to collect from the Yosoimim of the Loiva. That even Yosoimim of the Malva have to swear to collect from Yosoimim of the Malva. Rav and Shmuel Rav and Shmuel both agreed about the comment that they're about to make. The only time you say that Yosoimim have to swear to Yosoimim is if the Malva died in the life of the Loiva. So the Malva had a right to collect from the Loiva without a Shvua, and then the Malva died. So now his children yarshin the rights that the Malva had, and now they could collect from the Loiva. And now if the Loiva dies, these Yosoimim, in order to collect from the Yosoimim of the Loiva, lo yifru ela b'shvu. But what would happen is avol meis Loiva b'chayim Malva. What if the Loiva died first? So now the Malva, in order to be able to collect from the Yosoimim, has to make a Shvua. So his chus to collect was downgraded. While the Loiva was still alive, the Malva could just collect. Now that the Loiva died, the Malva can't just collect. He can't collect with a Shvua. So now his ability to collect depends upon him making a Shvua. Now this whole debt was downgraded because now the Malva can only collect from the Loiva, from the B'nai Loiva, from the Yisraelim of the Loiva with a Shvua. Now when the Malva dies, he cannot be merged his children a debt that's coming to him that he could only collect with a Shvua. A person could never be moirish to his children a debt that needs a Shvua upon which to collect. Why is that? Zok Rashi, ve'ein adam moirish Shvua levanav mitoich momoin shu mechayev alav Shvua. Moment that in order for the Malva to collect, he has to swear to collect that he cannot be moirish to his children. Alma, you see from here, in order for this Malva to collect from the Yosoimim of the Loiva, he has to make a Shvua that he had not yet been paid. The Yosoimim cannot swear a Shvua that we're 100% sure that this debt was never repaid. The most they could swear is El Shaloi Pikad Nu Abba. They could swear that our father didn't tell us that it was paid, but that's not the right Shvua. The Ein Zu Shvua Hamu Tell Us Halaviyim. That's not the Shvua that's incumbent upon their father to be able to collect. Their father must swear with surety, I did not receive any money. The Yisraelim cannot swear that. The Gam Yasmi Ein Yechoyin Lishava Shepar Avin. Now the Yasmi Loiva are also stuck. So the Yasmi Malva, they can't swear that we for sure didn't get repaid. And the Yisayim of the Loivas, if you want to transfer the Shvua to the Yisayim of the Loiva, they cannot swear with confidence that their father did pay back. So now we're in limbo. On the case of where we're in limbo, there's no chiv to pay. There's lo yifru. Alma if there's a shvur required to collect, and neither side is able to swear, svira l'ravu shmuel, chazru shvuel l'sinai, the shvuel goes back to Sinai, and there is no shvuel, vein kan lo shvuel v'lo piroi. So from this case of the Yisayim, where there was a scenario where neither party was able to swear, the Bnei Amalva can't swear that we for sure weren't paid back because they don't know. The Me'aloiva, the Yasmi Aloiva cannot swear that we for sure did pay back. So now we're in limbo, and what is halacha? No one pays anything. So that's exactly the shita of Rav and Shmuel, and based on that, if the Loiva couldn't swear and the Malva couldn't swear, we would do the same thing, we would not collect. So that's how we know that the Rabbeinu should be Bavel are Rav and Shmuel, because you see from what they said regarding Yisayim, Mina Yisayim, Lo Yifrel B'Shvua, and if the Loiva died first, there's no Shvua possible, and therefore everyone's potter. Therefore, we see that that's what they would hold Lagabi Aloiv and Amal that couldn't swear either. Rabbi Sinah Shaber Yisrael, they say that we'll force the Loiva to pay since he's not able to make a Shvua. That's Rav Abba. How do you see Rav Abba? From the famous case of Naska to Rav Abba. The Hugaver, the Chot of Nascha Mechavre. Someone went and grabbed a bar of gold away from his friend. Also, Lakamei to Rav Ami. So, of course, the person who was the victim called this fellow to the entire Rav Ami. You stole my bar of gold. I think Naska is a piece of silver. It's a chunk of something valuable. Yosy Rav Abba Kamei. Rav Abba was sitting in front of Rav Ami. In other words, Rav Abba was Rav Ami's Talmud, and he was watching his Rebbe Paskin Adinter. Aisi Chatzahada, the Michtav Chot Famine. The victim brought a nate that could testify that this fellow grabbed the Nascha away from him, but it was his. How did the respondent respond? He didn't deny that he chapped it. Amalein Chatvi, I did chap it. The Eid Echad is I agree with him, he's 100% right. But it was always my bar of gold. It wasn't his bar of gold. So therefore, I'm not mukhif to pay anything back. So Amar Rabami pondered, how should we approach this Torah? If we claim we should force the guy who chapped it to pay, leka trei sadek. There are no two edim that he chapped it. You don't have two edim that he stole, so you can't force him to pay. Nifterei, to say he could just walk away with the nascha that he stole, ika chatahada. There's a naid saying that he stole it. Namely, zil ishtaba. What are we going to tell him to swear? There's two options of what he could swear. Either he could swear he didn't grab it, which is normally how you counter an echad, or he could swear that it was his. So kimin damer michtav chatfi. The moment he says I grabbed it, he can no longer swear that he didn't grab it. And therefore, have a like a goslin. Rashi says he's not a goslin like a Rosh goslin. Lagabe this Shvua, he's a goslin. Lagabe swearing that he didn't chap it, he's a goslin. He cannot swear that because he has already admitted that he did steal it, but he claims that it's his. So Amar Elei Rababa said, based on that, have a mechuyev Shvua. He is mechuyev a Shvua because the Eid Echad came and says that he stole it, but vein yochel ishava. But he cannot swear. Because he cannot swear to neutralize the aid and say that he didn't steal it, because he said he grabbed it. But to swear that it was his, no one's being mechayiv him such a shvua. So he's stuck. He has to pay. So here you see how Reb Abba held that if someone has to swear, he's the primary responsible for the shvua, such as the loiva, yet he's unable to swear, we make him pay. So here we see the two shittas. Rav and Shmuel holds if neither one can swear, we don't enforce. And then we have the shita of Baba, who the primary person who is supposed to swear, if he cannot swear, he has to pay. Now, there's a big discussion as to whether or not these two shittas are mutually exclusive. There's a long Tosfos that discusses if you could paskin side like Rababa and side like Rav and Shmuel. So Zok to Gemara, Omer Rava said, Havasei de Rab Abba mistaber. I think it's more mistaber to say like Rababa that if you have a loiva and a malva and neither side, and the loiva is mechuyev Shvua, and neither side can swear, we say mitoich she'ena yochel yishavim mishav. That's what I think. Zok Rava. Why? The Tani Rabami. It says in the pasuk Shavuos Hashem Tia ben Shneim, right? In L'Sholach Yodai b'Melechas Re'ei. We have to swear. Rashi says in Balei Hadin Kayamin. That means if the Balei Din are both alive, then there'll be a Shavuos Hashem. But V'loi bein Hayorshim. But there will not be a Shvua between the Yorshim. That's what the Brisa says. So let's analyze what this Brisa means. Hey Chadami, what exactly is the case? If we're talking about two sets of Yisayim, the Yorshim, right? So the Yasmei Hamalva tell the Yasmei Aloiva, your father owes my father money. The Omar Lei, and there's a case of Maidim mix. We're trying to discuss a case where if the fathers were alive, they'd be a Chiv Shu Daraisa, and under those same circumstances, if we're talking about the next generation, there is no Shvua. So what would be the case where there would be a Shvua? If you're talking about a case where there was a Moedim Miktas, so the Yasmei Amalva said your father owed my father $10,000. The Yasmei Levi said, no, my father only owed your father $5,000. Well then, Chamshin Islay, the Chamshin Leslie only owes 50, so then they're saying it with conviction. If they're saying exactly how much their father owes, I mean, they know. If they know, let them swear. Mali hu, Mali avua. In a scenario like that, where the Yisayim know exactly what's going on, well, then let them swear. As Rashi says, since the Yasmin Aloiva are coming back and saying with confidence that they're sure, well, then surely they can swear. So that can't be the case. I'm sorry? Just the Loiva, who's the Moedim Mitzvahs, yeah. So let the B'nei HaLoiva, let the Yasmei Loiva swear. That can't be where the pasuk says V'loi bein HaYarshim. That can't be where the Brisa darshans V'loi bein HaYarshim. So Zok to Gemara, El Alav, the case must be Damale Mona L'Abba B'Yad Avicha. Your father owed my father $10,000. Amar Lein, they responded Chamshin Yodana. We do know that my father owed your father $5,000, but the Chamshin, the other 5 lawyers, then we don't know. So that's the case where they didn't know. So they have a Chiv Shavuos Moedim Miktas, but they wouldn't be able to swear. So let's turn on to Amud Beis. Zok Gemara, Iyamit B'Shleima, Oviv Kihai Gavna, Mechayev, where the Torah is making a distinction between if the father was alive versus now that there's only Yisayim. And we want to say that in this case, in this scenario, the father would be mechayev to swear, the children are not. So Iyamit B'Shleima, Oviv Kihai Gavna, Mechayev. If you hold that in such a case, the father would be mechayev zok Rashi Shvua, umitoich she'ena yochel yishava. The father can't swear, I don't owe you the other 5,000 if he's not even sure. So lishalim, we would force the father to pay, the loiva to pay. So then, if the father is alive and he says, I for sure owe you 5,000, I don't know about the other 5, there he would be mechuyev to swear. He would be unable to swear because he himself is admitting that he doesn't know. So therefore, he would be chayav to swear. On that same scenario, if it was the Yisraelim, they wouldn't have to swear, they would be potter. Then it's Rechkolamifta Gabi Yarshim. Then everything makes sense why we have a pasuk to pater the Yarshim Hamashvua. Nami Potter, if you're going to say that since the loiva can't swear, we say Chazra Shvua Sinai, and he's Potter, and you don't collect from him, well, if you don't even collect from the father in a scenario of that, Kra Gabi Yarshim Namali. Why would I need a pasuk to tell you that if the children can't swear, they don't have to pay? The father wouldn't have to pay. So that's why Rava said, I like Reb Abba's pshat better, because from the brisa that the Torah, the learners of the Torah have to tell us there's a certain case where the father would be chayiv to pay and the children aren't. The only case that we could find is this specific case. So you clearly see that if the father Tanya do the Tanya Shema and therefore he's unable to swear to verify his position, he would have to pay. So, Frektum of the Rav Shmuel, there's a pasuk that says Shavuos Hashem Tia Ben Shneim, and the Brisa uses it to teach us that the Yosayim don't swear in the case of Shema, but the father would have to swear and he would have to pay. So Shmuel, Rav and Shmuel, they definitely cannot learn this deal. So even if you could say Rav Talmud Polik, so he doesn't hold like that Brisa, but there's a pasuk of Shavuos Hashem Tia Ben Shneim. What does he do with that pasuk? Hi Shavuos Hashem, my Kadoshi Bey. So we're going to use it for a limud that Reb Shimon ben Tarfon taught us, which we learned earlier in the Masechta. Shavuos Hashem Tia Ben Shneim. We blame the Shvua upon both the swear and the Baldin that demanded the Shvua, Malamid, Shashvua Chola al Shneim. If someone swears falsely, we don't only punish, we don't only look at the loiva who swear falsely as the chayte, we also look at the malva as a chayte. Why? Zakt Rashi. Rashi says, not over here, but Rashi says back there, where we learned it last time, Rashi says, because when you do business with somebody, don't do business with unscrupulous people that would lead to a fake shvua. You should have never engaged them in business in the first place. So therefore, we're equally going to punish and hold responsible the malva as we are going to the loiva. Now, so that takes care of our sugya of Rav and Shmuel and Rabba. We like the svara of Mitoich Sheni Yochel Yishav HaMishalim. Now that the Gemara introduced a limud that Reb Shimon ben Tarfon taught us in the drush of the pasuk of Shavuos Hashem Tia Ben Shneim, we're now going to see other drushes that Shimon ben Tarfon said, but not Tamazoi because it's the same name. All of these drushes were set over in one brisa. So we're just reading the rest of the brisa. Shimon ben Tarfon Noimer, Asara lo oikev acher noyef minayin. How do you know that a pimp gets the same oynish as the noyef himself? The one who provided the ability, he facilitated the niyuf, he gets the same oynish as the, well, I don't know if the same oynish, but Asara lo oikev acher noyef, he also gets punished. How do you know? Tabadomer loy sinov, and we dash in loy sanif. Not only should you not do niyuf, you shouldn't enable another person to be a noyev. It says Vateiragnu v'ahalechem. Another pasuk that we're going to darshan. Let's read the pasuk inside. Vateiragnu v'ahalechem. Vateiragnu v'ahalechem v'taimru. So this is when Klai Yisrael was in the midbar, and they said, "B'sinas Hashem ma'isanu ha'isianu meretz b'trayim losei seisanu v'yad ha'mori lahashmideinu." So they I think this was by the Ma'isa Hamaraglim, and they were complaining that they were not happy that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took them out of Mitzrayim. I'm sorry? Oh, that's right. So Zok to Gemara, if I'm right about the Teragdim. So Zok to Gemara, Shimon ben Tarfon says, Tartem. It doesn't literally mean that they complained in their tents in private. Rather, it was public and it was a very bad thing. Tartem Zakrashi, Tartem Esarach, you spy the land. Oh, so speaking about the Raglim, right? Viginisem ba'ahaloi shalmokim. So by Teiragnu is a combination of two words. Tartem, that's a tough resh, and Gimel Nun is Viginisem. And you said slander to the land, and you slander the Rebbeinu Shalom. You slander the Rebbeinu Shalom that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you where? Right in front of the oil light. So he learns that this complaint was in public, right in front of the oil moed. That's where this happened. That's how he dashes this pasuk that there was like an open rebellion, Keneged Hashem, in front of the oil moed. Then we have another pasuk that says Adanar Hagadol Nahar Paros. So let's have a look. Pnu Sulachem Uvoyu Har HaMori V'Kol Shchenov V'Arava B'Haru V'Shvelu V'Negev V'Chov Hayom Eretz Aknani V'Lavonin Ad Hanar Hagadol Nahar Paros. Now, if you look it up in Parshas Bereshis, the smallest of the four rivers that Yotzim Eden was Paros. So why are we referring to the Nahar process, the Nahar Hagadol? Shimon Metarfinoimer, Karev, Lagabe Dehina, Ve'idin. If you get close to somebody who is Nimshach, B'Shem Namishcha, it rubs off on you. In other words, why was the Nahar process called the Nahar Gadol? Because it was close to the big Naharis. Whenever you get and you associate with great people, that greatness will rub off on you. Who's called the great one?
No, so which other rivers? The other rivers.
Oh, the other rivers were bigger rivers. So they were called Nahar Gadol.
I understood that it was one of the borders of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore it's rubbed Eretz Yisrael rubbed off on.
Oh, so you're right, because look, you look at Rashi. That's what Rashi says. You're right. Karav l'gabedina v'dein im nagata b'meshuach b'shemen. If you touch someone's meshuach b'shemen, tehegam ata meshuach b'nigyoso, some of that oil will rub onto you, and you'll get a little greasy. Kolomer prasu katan misholosh naharos shu manu etzlam. It's smaller than the three rivers that it was listed amongst. Libisoif. It's listed the last one, Vanor Revi, who pros. The Kanu Koirosh in Hargodel. Why? Bishvil Shu Nisker Kanal Shem Meir Tistro, like David's saying. Because now it's listed not because it's rubbing shoulders with the bigger rivers. I was wrong. It's rubbing shoulders with Eretz Yisrael. It's listed as part of Eretz Yisrael. Shu Chashuva. Therefore, Nisker Gamu b'Chashivas. Since Nahar Pros was mentioned in relevant in connection with Eretz Yisrael, that's why it's a Nahar Gadol. The Hina is a Lashon Shemen and Mashicha. So if it rubs off on when you're associated with something, it rubs off on you. So that's what we learn from there. The Rebbe Shmuel Tana Eved Melech Kemelech. Even the Eved of a king takes on certain principles of the king, because some of the aristocracy rubs off on them. I forgot to mention yesterday. I told David last night. Did I tell you the story about the employee who was fooling around in the factory? Did I tell you that story? So we were learning yesterday about an employee. If when could he claim that he wasn't paid? That's if he has proof that he had the contract that he was working. But what if I don't even have Adim to prove that I was ever hired? Right? So then Migoi, that the Balabais could say, I never hired you, he can also say that I paid you already. So I said over a story where there was a fellow bought a new factory, and he knew he had to improve the efficiency of the factory. So what he did was when he bought the factory, he told them, don't say that I bought it. I'm just going to make believe like you hired me to be one of the factory workers. So I'll be able to say who works and who doesn't work. And he says that as he's working, he sees there's one guy sitting around for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, schmoozing with his employees, schmoozing with his fellow employees and wasting time, not doing anything. 3 hours. So this guy got very upset. He wanted to be an undercover boss, but he blew his cover because the guy's sitting there for 3 hours. He walks up to the guy and he says, how much do you make a week? So the guy says, I make $1,000 a week. So he pulls out of his wallet $2,000. Here's $2,000. Get out of my factory. I never want to see you again. So the guy leaves. Then he turns to the other workers. By the way, that guy who I just fired, what does he do here? They said he doesn't work here. He was just delivering pizza. So the Mishnah says, it doesn't mean that if I just have written down that you owe me money, I can go collect from you. No, that's not what it means. It means where there was a special case where you told the Cheneveni, give my children food and I'll pay you, and the Cheneveni gave the food, the children deny that they got it, so both parties get to come and collect from the Cheneveni with a Shvua. And now they said, one of these parties are lying. Either the children are lying when they say they didn't get anything, or the Cheneveni is lying when you say you gave them. So how could you make them both make a Shvua when you know for sure one of them is going to be lying? Right? That was the shot that we had. So Tanya Amar Rebbe, Tarach Shvua Zulami, Lama. Rebbe had the same time as bananas. How could you make them make such a Shvua? Someone is certainly lying. So Rashi, Tarach Shvua Zulama. I really should stop here and go back to Rashi. Rashi on the Mishnah is over here. So Rashi says something very important. Shneyam nishbay v'noten belabais. Why do the belabais have to lose? The Amalei Payhalim loy mehemnuli b'shvua. The Payhalim will tell the balabais, we don't trust the Cheneveni. You told the Cheneveni to pay us. We don't trust him. You trusted him. So because he swore that he paid, we should lose out? We don't lose out. You lose out. You're the one who trusts him. Atamin too. The loy amratle bisahadi havlu. You know what you should have. You know what you should have told this chenvi. Pay my employees, but make sure you have it documented. Make sure you have proof of it. You didn't say that. You trust them. So if you trust them, it's your problem. It's not our problem. Same thing. So the Chavani says, I don't believe the Payalim, and the Payalim says, I don't believe the Chavani. So therefore, either one doesn't have to accept the Shvua of the other. So Zok Rabbi, Tarach Shvua Zulama, Sheshneim Boy LeBezdin. Why do they both have to come to Bezdin? And now they're both going to swear, one of them's swearing false. So Teiche Shvua Shav Mi Beineim. Well, it appears Rabbi, my Svirle, Inoitim Beloy Shvua Kivenamis, O Yafset Chavani B'Shvuas Payalim. We don't know what Rabbi Paskin Halach L'Maisa from what we've just learned, and we're going to have to analyze it. Do we say, like Ben Nana said, nobody swears, or do we say one swears and then the Chavani loses? That is the question. Tanina. He told Rabbi, what do you mean? We have a brisa that tells us what the resolution is. So, did Rabbi accept the brisa that Rabbi quoted to say, in fact, that they both swear, even though one is swearing false, and then they both collect from the balabais? That is the question. So was Rabbi Chayzer from his argument of Torah Shavua Zulam? So Tashma, let's see if we can bring a right. Titania Rabbi Omer. Rabbi said, Po'alim nishboin lechamri. The Po'alim swear to the Chanvini that we did not receive the money, which sounds very much like the Chanvini then has to pay. If you hold like the Shita of Rabbi Chia that they both swear, it should say that they both swear to Balabais, and the Balabais pays both. By the Brisa saying that the Poyalim swear to the Chavani, it almost sounds like the Chavani doesn't have to pay them. Amarava, that's not what the Brisa means. The Brisa means Poyalim nishboy lebalabais. The Shvua to the Balabais, because he has to pay both. But it's b'maimit Chavani. The Chavani is standing there when the Poyalim swear, it's very easy for them to swear falsely to the Balabais who doesn't really know if the Chavani gave them the money or not. But if the Chavani is standing right there and he's staring them down, and they know that he knows that they're lying, they're much less likely to lie. So that's what it means. Even though they swear, and they're swearing to the Balabais, because the Chavani is not their Baldin, the Chavani is there to stare them down, to make them feel uncomfortable if in fact they're lying. Itmar. Now that we're in the subject of both swore, the Chavani swore, the Poyalim swore, and we know one of them is lying, so the Gemara gets into a little bit of a tangent of a similar case where we know one party is lying. There was two sets of Edom. Two Edom said that Reuven killed Shimon, and two Edom said Reuven didn't kill Shimon. We know without a doubt that one set is lying, right? So Lagabi, the Din Torah of whether or not this person is a Ritzeach, the Edom are neutralized, right? We don't trust either side for sure. They're neutralized. But are they themselves postulated? What happens if the two Edom that said Reuven killed Shimon went and said some other Din Torah that Levi borrowed $1,000 from Yehuda, right? Would they be believed? Each of those two sets are not considered postulated. There might be a suspicion on them, but we consider them still kosher. They both have the chesed kashrus, and if they each go say eidos, they would be nemo. But if you took one aid from one cut and one aid from another cut, there you know for sure one of them was lying in the first case. So there, that wouldn't be a good aid, because we know that between these two aidim, one of them is for sure a liar. So therefore, they each can say eidos on each set. They stick together, can say other eidusim, because they have a suffix of a cheskus kashrus. This doesn't smell right. Once there's lying over here, let's throw them all out. Why would you want to even get involved with Edom that even can potentially be lying? We won't accept Edom from any of them. Once you're involved in a contradiction between your Edom, you and another set of Edom, you're no longer going to be known anywhere. Okay, so therefore, let's see how the chips fall. Shnei Malvin Ushnei Lovin Ushnei Stars. Hainu Pluktai. If there's two loivas and two malvas, meaning there's two there are two sets of Adam and they contradicted each other by rule and kilchim, right? Now, so let's call them aid 1 and 2 and aid 3 and 4. Okay, so aid 1 and 2 went and said a separate aidus that Reuben owes Shimon $1,000, they'll be nema. Aid 3 and 4 went and said a separate aidus that Levi owes Yehuda $1,000, they'll be nema. It's two separate things. Hainu Pluktayu, that's the exact machlokes. Where according to Rav Huna, we accept each aid individually. Well, where the Chizis says we don't trust anybody anymore. What about Malva Veloiva Ushtei Stories? What if the Malva lent the Loiva money twice? On one star, the first set of Adam signed. On the other star, the second set of Adam signed. So the Loiva really should be able to say one of these two stars are for sure possible, because one of these two stars was signed by a aid that's a liar, right? I say that's liars. So there the halach is Yad Bala Shtar Ala Tachtoin. There, the Malva is at a disadvantage because the Levi could say one of these two stars are for sure possible. So if they're both for $1,000, it doesn't really matter. He can still collect $1,000. But if one's for 1,000 and one's for 500, then he would only be able to collect 500 because the Levi will say, "Prove to me that the kosher Adam were the ones who signed the star of 1,000." Fine. What about Shnei Malvin Veloivech? So what if I have two stars that Reuben owes me money, and one star was signed by one set of Adam, and one star was signed by, there's two Malvas, but the loiv is the same. One star was signed by one set of Adam, one by the other set of Adam. So Shnei Malvin, Veloiv Echad, Ushnei Stars. So two separate loans that the loiva borrowed from Mr. A and he borrowed from Mr. B. But on the star of Mr. A, one set of Adam signed. On the star of Mr. B, the other set of Adam signed. One of these two Adam are apostle. Hainim Asnisim. That's mamish the case of our Mishnah, where each Malva says, "I don't care what happened by the other star. Between you and me, you got to pay me." Right. So that's exactly the case of our Mishnah. In the case of our Mishnah, what happens is each party can collect from the balabais. Side the Chavani can collect from the balabais again, and side or no, he can collect from the balabais, and side the employees can collect possibly a second time from the balabais. So that's similar to the case of Shnei Malvin, V'loiv Echad, Ushnei Stars. We know one's a lie, yet the fact that one's a lie doesn't negate the other one, because in my entire with you, I have a good star. None of my business that you have another star with the other set of eight. What about Beis Lovin Umalva? What if there's one Malva and he has one star signed by one set of Adam that Reuben owes him money, and he has another star signed by another set of Adam that Shimon owes him money? One of these two Adams are apostle. Ushnei stars, what would be the halacha there? Could they get together and say one of these are apostle? Zok Gemara Teku, the Gemara remains in the take. Masiv Rav Huna Bar Yehuda. Frek Rav Huna Bar Yehuda the following kasha. Echad Omer Gavoya Beis Mardois. We have Adam that are coming saying testimony that they saw the new moon for Kiddush HaChodesh. Amardeya is some type of tool that's used in the steering of oxen. And I guess when you're looking up, they're saying how far was it from the horizon? Now, from the horizon, it's thousands of miles. But from your vantage point, and if you go like this, it looks like, it's from my thumb to my pinky, right? Because from your vantage point, it would look like it's closer together. So Echadomer Gevoya Beis Mardois was two Mardois off of the horizon. Shalosh Edusam Kayemes, because people's eyes aren't such fine instruments. Yes, it's possible that they both saw the same thing. One thought it was one Mardeya, one thought it was two Mardeyas. But what about if Echadomer Gimel Echadomer Hey, that's Edusam Betela? Then for sure that Edus is not going to work together, because they for sure saw two different things. Or maybe one of them is lying. But but they can be mitzarfen leidus acheres. So the Gemara says, "My love leidus moment." You have one age who said one mardeya, one said 3, or one said 3, one said 5. One of these two are lying. We know one of these two guys are lying. The moon couldn't have been in two places, so one of them are lying. Yet we let them come together and sign on the star for this moment, we know one of them is lying. So it's shver. So it's shver on Rafuna. Tomorrow Amarava, it means who va'achar mitzdarf min la'idus acher shorish chodesh. It means if one guy said it was 3 mardeyos, one that said it was 5, and now another 8 comes along and also says it was 5, you put those 2 Eidim together, and you have good Eidim of Chiddush HaChodesh, Tavlu Trei V'chad, Ve'idvorav Shalechad B'Makom Shnayim. And even though one said it was 3 Mardeyos, we disregard what he said, because we now have 2 Eidim who said it was 5 Mardeyos. But Avada, we cannot take these 2 Eidim and put them together to say Eidos, so therefore you don't have a Raya to Rav Huna or Rav Chisda. Think about it. We'll stop here.
Yeah. What happened by, last night?